photos of high school football, because that's the original quote from Riverdale, the infamous one, but that's what Patreon is for. I'm not usually talking about the drama here. That being said, I still read some books, okay? I haven't even listened to that many audiobooks like I usually do. This year has just not been great. I've read roughly like 10 books. I've started so many and I haven't finished them. It's just this year, God. I am ready for this year to be over so we can move on from it and start with clean slate maybe, or at least for me with a much more peaceful mind. Right, so I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of this year, which I only have two. About my worst book of this year, that's going to be just one. And then I'll tell you what else I've been reading. And yeah, that's what today's video is going to be. So my favorite book of this year, which actually has a rating of only 3.29 on Goodreads. I didn't know that it has such a low rating. But it's Lemon by Kwon Yo-son. This is a book that was translated from Korean, and I feel like it just came for me at the right time. It's a murder mystery, but the murder is only in the background. It's more focused on societal issues, especially in Korean society. I have enjoyed this book a lot. I was listening to the audiobook though, and there are two POVs. Both of them are women, but one of them is voiced by a man, and I didn't realize this until I was in like 80% of the book. And it's because the two POVs are not distinguished between each other in the text. So if you're just reading the book, you might be confused which POV is which. There are a few intermissions of other characters that were also voiced by different actors, and I feel like in general the audiobook was better for that reason. That being said, if you're looking for just a murder mystery, this book might not be for you. So actually the whole premise of the story is that a beautiful girl gets murdered and nobody is really punished for it, if I remember correctly. Everyone has some alibi, and as the story goes on you have to figure it out yourself. I feel like it was pretty obvious for me what the outcome was, who the killer was, but I've also seen people on forums disagreeing, so it's really up to the reader to decide what happened, which is why I'm telling you this is not really a typical murder mystery where you would have everything handed out to you. It mainly focuses on society, and a lot of people mentioned that they were bothered that it was mentioned that the victim was beautiful so many times, but that was the entire point. So maybe that's why I've enjoyed it and others couldn't, because I could like understand the cues that were in the story, because I lived in Korea, I will be living in Korea, I know the society a bit, so I kind of could understand and read between the lines a bit better maybe than somebody that is not familiar with the culture at all. And to be honest, it's not like my favorite book of all time, okay? I don't know, maybe it's because I haven't read that much this year, so I don't have a lot of books I can choose from, but I still enjoyed this book the most. Then I have a non-fiction book. That's also my favorite, and it's called Attached: The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love by Amber Levine and Rachel Heller. So this book focuses on attachments, as you can probably tell from the title. If you don't know what attachment theory is, it's how you form relationships. So the way you were treated as a kid and through your formative years, or maybe in your teenage years as well, like it keeps kind of molding you in a way, is how you form relationships with others in the future as an adult. And a lot of it explains why some people stay in toxic relationships, why they cannot get away, why they feel like they cannot find somebody else if they leave their toxic partner. Also, it can explain why some people are just so fearful of commitment and intimacy, which I feel like in the dating scene there's a lot of people like that. So it kind of helped me understand myself better. Now, there are three main categories. The best, or not the best one, but like the healthiest one is called secure, and then there are two unhealthy ones. And for you to form that, it basically means you were a little bit messed up in your childhood, like there was something wrong probably. And I'm one of those unhealthy ones. I've mentioned this before. I know that for some people it's like really sensitive question or a sensitive topic, but I'm going to be honest with you, I am anxious. I've always been anxious, and I have gotten so much better recently and over the years in general. So I'm heading more towards the secure style now, which, by the way, good news, if you are one of the unhealthy ones, if you were also messed up in your childhood, there's hope. You can actually fix it if you put in the work and time and effort. I've heard that it takes roughly like 4 years for you to actually change the attachment, but you can actually do it. If you want to know more about this, again, that's what my Patreon is for. I've actually talked about this in September, I think, in one of my videos, where I briefly explained my childhood and like my formative years and all that. I have listened to this audiobook and it explained so much. If you're somebody that also has kind of troubles with dating, if you feel like you always choose the wrong person no matter what, this book might be for you, because it can explain a lot. I was like, how do you even know this about me? As it was like mentioned or described, like I was just like are you inside my head? Like, what is this? So I recommend it if you're somebody that also kind of can struggle with just forming relationships that are healthy. This might be for you. Okay, then I have my worst book of this year. I have my computer right here, or laptop right in front of me, and it's kind of far away, so okay. The worst book of this year for me them, and they do some modeling jobs every now and then that are kind of suspicious sometimes. This book was just not it for me. It just, I don't know, I got lost very quickly between all the names of people they were meeting and hanging out and partying. It just wasn't interesting to me at all. Like, it was a life that I would never want to lead, and I couldn't really understand the point of the story, like the outcome. That's my issue. Like, it was just a story without any substance, I feel like, without any lesson, without any point. Maybe I have misunderstood the story. It's possible. It just wasn't for me. That's all. Okay, so then I have read The Little Mermaid again. I think I have mentioned this book so many times on my channel. It's like The Little Mermaid, Harry Potter, Brandon Sanderson's books, and The Little Prince. They're like a constant on my channel. I'll mention them all the time. So I've read The Little Mermaid. I haven't read the full book. This is the Minalima edition that is not only illustrated but also interactive, and it's of course written by Hans Christian Andersen. I genuinely love his fairy tales. They don't have the happiest endings usually. They're not the Disney version, okay, but I think because of that I like it much more. I'm pretty sure you know what The Little Mermaid is about. It's so beautiful. Look how interactive it is. It's just, this edition is wonderful. I only have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in this edition, but I would like to collect more and really keep them. Like, sometimes I feel like I want to own certain editions just to have them and not really read them, but this editions I love. Okay, I am going to keep these forever and ever and cherish them and pass them down onto my children. I don't know, but it's absolutely amazing. Like, this edition, it's my favorite, definitely. And the reason why I love Little Mermaid is because it has a lot of lessons in the story. It doesn't have the best ending. Well, kind of. Depends how you look at it. But, I mean, I've listened to it for the first time when I was 6 years old, and I could have understood it, actually. But it was my first heartbreak. Oh my god. So my parents actually had an audiobook of The Little Mermaid on CD, and we've had this CD player, and so I was listening to the book, even though I actually was able to read when I was like 4 years old, but for some reason we just had the audiobook of this story, and it was the original version by Hans Christian Andersen. I bawled my eyes out. Just, it makes me sad to even think about it now, because I cried for The Little Mermaid so much. It was like she went through so much pain, and then she just turned to sea foam. Oh my god. So yeah, it's a good story. I mean, is it really suitable for children that young? Maybe, because I feel like it taught me a lot. So, okay. as a whole like 3 stars, and the last book 2 stars, I think, because I did not like it. I did not, but I still read it. I still had like a good time. It was just something that I would pick up whenever I didn't feel like reading a really complicated fantasy. I would just pick this book up, and that being said, there were things in the series that just made 0 sense to me. Like 0 sense. And I've read it in my mother tongue Czech, right? So I thought, oh, what's going on here? Because sometimes with English I'm like, okay, maybe I've misunderstood a few things. But with my mother tongue I was like, what am I missing here? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I ended up not really enjoying the series. And then I have read, no idea what I'm doing, but Effort by Ron Lim. This is kind of a poetry book. It's rated quite high. It has 4.15 rating on Goodreads, and I've read this in a period of my life of 2023 where I genuinely had no idea what I'm doing, but it gave me some sense of peace and strength when I needed it the most. And yeah, it was just like, I've read this when I felt like I'm being a bit crazy and I have no idea what I'm doing, but maybe it will make sense to me in the future, and I feel like it makes sense more to me now. And sometimes I just act on my feelings, my desires, and not my brain, really. And I feel like I should do that more, because I always overthink everything, and I don't know, I use my brain way too much sometimes. I've also read as an ebook Notes from a Public Typewriter by Michael Gustafsson. I'm not going to talk about this book anymore because I've made 2 full videos with this book where I've read it out loud. Well, not out loud, I was whispering, but you know what I mean. And I talked about it in some of my previous videos, but it's just about a bookstore where the owner put a typewriter in and everybody could write whatever they wanted, and over the years the owner collected all of those notes, the thoughts, and put them in a book. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so actually I'm pre-filming this before the holidays, so there might be some books that I will not mention that technically are part of my 2023, but because I have to pre-film everything, I will just mention those books in January. Last but not least, I'll talk about a few books that I've started and haven't finished yet. One of them is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I've been stuck on this book for a while, and that's because I just really, I didn't want to waste it when I feel like I'm not able to fully focus on it. So I'm going to start my 2023 with it, and actually, like, this time I feel like I'll be fully able to focus on the story. I'm on page like 150, and because I love the series so much, and sometimes I felt like I'm not really paying attention to the story as much as I should, so I put it down for the time being, but I'm going to pick it up again in 2024, definitely, because I love the series so much. And also I've started The Invisible Life. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. This is the illustrated anniversary edition, and I haven't read that much, nobody remembers her ever. And this is a quote that I liked that I want to read to you. And it's actually a romance, I think. There's something that happens maybe between the god and the immortal girl. I don't know. I like stories like this. I like these supernatural, completely impossible stories or romances that would never happen in real life. I enjoy that. If it's a regular romance and the character is just dating her like neighbor and they have all this drama with the ex-girlfriends and whatnot, I'm not interested. I don't care, okay? No. I think I need some element of impossibility or just some fantastical setting for me to actually enjoy romance. Anyways, so I'll read the quote. The old gods may be great, but they are neither kind nor merciful. They are fickle, unsteady as moonlight on water, or shadows in a storm. If you insist on calling them, take heed. Be careful what you ask for. Be willing to pay the price. And no matter how desperate or dire, never pray to the gods that answer after dark. Well, guess what she did? She prayed to a god that answered after dark. And that's how she became immortal, but nobody ever remembers her. By the way, there are forget-me-nots, and on the original cover, I think it's black and it has the blue forget-me-nots on it. I really like the original cover as well. I just wanted to get the illustrated anniversary edition, and there are forget-me-nots here as well. They're just grey, so that's what I'm currently reading. Okay, so that will be it for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you're ready to leave 2023 behind, and I wish everyone a very happy new year. By the way, one last thing, I'm going to be doing a thank you video for my patrons and members, and I already talked about how if you don't want to be included, if you are a patron, if you don't want your name to be mentioned, just write me a DM on Patreon or a comment if you're on YouTube membership. I will not include you, but it's coming next week, probably a bit later, because I have to film it later. I usually film like on Monday or the week before, so that my video could be published on time on my Patreon first without ads and then here. But yeah, that's just next week, and I'm already rambling too much. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here with me, and happy 2024. Okay,